Our next guest is in the studio. We want to talk about mambo ya mlima. Mufanye ile kitu yote mtafanya, msiguze mlima. Msiguze mlima. Sasa mlima imeguzika, imejisplit.
Iko south,
iko east, iko west. Mlima.
Na iko south, na
iko north. Ya mlima. What is happening in this mlima? Our guest is Sabina Chege, nominated member of parliament. Are you still the whip of Jubilee in the National Assembly?
Yes, I am.
Aha, the Jubilee whip in the National Assembly. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
An acting party leader of Jubilee Party. Good morning to you. How are you?
Hii acting umekuwa ukiact sana.
Kabisa, we are still in court.
Why can't this party hold elections?
Because we can't hold until we finalize with the courts.
Because you need to resolve this issue.
Yes, we have to.
Court.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we are praying by the end of this month and next month we can be able to sort out our differences and move out of courts and build our party, because I am seeing like Jubilee Party is going to be the party of the future. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It was the party of the future in the last administration.
It was the ruling party then, not the party of the future. And then we got a split from part of our colleagues who went and promised a lot of things. And that have not happened. We spoke to people about the party, about what we believed in. At some point, actually, when the former president talked about the project he wanted to finish, and especially the roads, people told him we don't eat roads. Now they have come back to eat their own words, and they know roads are important. Some of them that where they stopped, they have not continued. Other new projects are being started when some of them, the very important projects, are stalling. So we are now at a platform where we can have a sober conversation, because I believe then we were very emotional and people had their own way of thinking and almost promised that there's magic that can work in leadership. And so now with the absence of magic and with a lot of frustrations, I am quite sure now Kenyans can settle down and, debate soberly and just agree on what is the best way forward for this nation.
One would have expected that, but well, we shall discuss. I don't want to give Mtumishi Wanjiro the day's proverb.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the Federal Republic of Somalia. Somalia.
Okay.
Horn of Africa.
Oh.
We talked about that earlier on, longest coastline of our countries within Africa. We have African nations that are in the sea, in the middle of an ocean, but the ones which are within that landmass. Get to know me before you reject me.
Get to know me before you reject me. What's your interpretation of this one?
A quick one would be the famous quote of don't judge the book by its cover. But I think it's just that you need to take time to know people, not just, the first impression. Sometimes I may be in the wrong mood and we met and you thought I am this snob. But once you spend time with me, then you'll come to understand me and know me. Because I think a one-time or just one-time impression would not really give you the package of who I am. And sometimes also, and especially for us who are in politics, sometimes I would come and talk about things, but take time. Interrogate me after 2 weeks, after a month, after a year, then you'll actually know who I am.
Can get the composite of the
person. And you know the true person. So it is important to give everybody some time and benefit of doubt before you judge them. And especially with this social media era. So there's a lot of things that are out there. There are people who know you more than you know yourself.
They know sometimes, you from the rumors they've read about
exactly. You. So sometimes you even read about yourself, you're like, is there another Eric or is it me? So maybe there's another thief. So I think it's time that people will not judge other people by what they read in the social media or maybe that first impression, but take time to understand even where we've come from. Some of us have had very long journeys. You might think we just got to this level, but I know, Eric, if anyone would give my testimony, I would call you as one of the person who interviewed me when I was a very young girl in the media, when I was in the first year in the university, and you gave me a chance to be a broadcaster when I was not even trained journalist. But you saw my passion, and you believed in me, and you actually trained me. I think that's something that many people don't know.
And here you are now, leader of a future party.
Imagine, not a future party.
Eric,
Party of the future.
You must be fair to this party. They are continuously the future party. Yes.
No, we were the former ruling, and we are coming back
The party of the
with
future.
a bang.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's talk about the mountain. You know, every time people bring in politics and they start, bringing regional issues, they group people together and say coastal people. Like the people of Lunga Lunga and people going all the way to the border with Garissa are all coastal.
And the ones bordering Kajiado,
Yes.
they're all coastal.
They're all coastal. Yeah? Mount Kenya has been this one word that's used in the Mount Kenya region. Can you define for us, where is Mount Kenya? What does Mount Kenya region mean, politically speaking?
Well, the issue of Mount Kenya comes in when you're looking at the numbers, or the voting block. Basically, that's where the Mount Kenya becomes relevant. And at some point, you find that after any election, the issue of where you come from, disappears, and we are all Kenyans. But when it comes to any political cycle, or where people want to push their own agenda, then we retreat back to our regional cocoons. And so we start saying we are from Mount Kenya, we are from coast. Others will come and say, we are from northern Kenya. Others, at some point, the coastal people said Pwani si Kenya. So the regional politics comes in when people are trying to look for votes. And at that point, then, we look at the numbers. And without any fear of contradiction, Mount Kenya has had really a voter basket. And this voter basket of Mount Kenya is not necessarily at the mountain. Because we know these Mount Kenya people are also very aggressive.
Who are the Mount Kenya people? I want us to start from there.
I'll say if you talk about Mount Kenya people, I'll talk about the Kikuyu, the Embu, and the Meru. Those basically, if you remember, the initial Gema community, which was the Gikuyu, Embu, and Meru.
Okay.
Those are basically the ones who are around. The people who originally came from around the mountain, and it has spread all the way. You touch from Meru, you come to the Rakanidi, you come to Embu, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, you'll spread to Nyandarua. A lot of people in Nakuru also, they will claim that they're also from Mount Kenya.
Like Kipia.
Like Kipia also, and also, like I would say half of Nairobi, or even more, would say they have come from Mount Kenya because of the proximity of Nairobi, or the capital city, to the central part of Kenya.
Okay.
So basically, that is what is popularly referred to as Mount Kenya, or the Murima, if you want to say. But basically, the Murima is just the Mount Kenya, the mountain.
Are they homogeneous, these people? Can we say that their political ideology, their needs, their thinking is homogeneous? Because they are Kikuyu. Kikuyus think the same as Embus, as Meru.
In the past, and I would say, if you look at the history, maybe when there was the issue of Matiba and Kibaki, that is when we almost had the split. But then the split, and I say that's why I'm saying they come in, or they converge because of their political interest. When Matiba was to become the president, the people who made Matiba not become the president were the people of Meru, Embu, and Nyeri, because they actually now went to they took that block.
Yep.
But the Kiambu, Murang'a, and part of Kirinyaga were for Kenneth Matiba. Basically, and I think that was a technique that was used by the late President Moi to divide the mountain. That was divide and rule. Because if then they voted as a basket, would have had Matiba being a president of Kenya. But when Mwai Kibaki decided to vie, and again Matiba was vying, that's how Matiba lost it. So basically, the issue of the mountain comes in, unfortunately, just because of the voter basket. And there's always a saying that when there's a fear of losing, or there's some danger, they sense some danger, they come together as a team. So they might disagree on many other things. But when the elections comes and then there's a fear of some danger, you can, if you want to relate to the last elections, where they even said no to their own. They said no to Uhuru. And they went against all his advices, and we're going to stand with Ruto. You saw the entire, basically the voting, the larger block, I think 80-something% voted for Ruto because there was they felt like the current president was being intimidated by the president. There are people who didn't want him. So with all that and the many things that were also convinced that they were the truth, whether they were truth or not, that's a debate for another day. Then they voted as a basket or as a block. So, but for once...
Or they rejected Raila.
They actually, they rejected Raila, but they also rejected Uhuru. They didn't want anybody who was, because if it was just about Raila, we had very nice members of parliament who then supported Raila, but they were good performers. But they also rejected, they said tunamaliza ni kuku na mayai. So they forget kuku na mayai yake. That's what really happened. So we lost also very good legislators, some very good MPs who are very hardworking, who had done a lot of work in parliament on the ground. But by the fact that they were not in UDA, they were all swept away.
But consider this perspective. Huh? When you talk of, say, Gema,
yes,
there's a generation who understood exactly what you're saying, and the Gema was formulated with a certain understanding. I have three questions. Let me start with the first one. Would you say that concept of Gema that you have very eloquently illustrated is understood by the bulk of the generational voters that we currently have in the mountain region?
Unfortunately, no. And I think we saw what happened with the Gen Z. And they came in and said, we are non-political. We don't belong to any political party. Neither are we inclined to any religion. Neither are we inclined to our tribal cocoons.
Okay.
Today, our children who are, I think myself and Eric, our children are Gen Zs. If you tell them about being a Kikuyu or non-Kikuyu, they don't relate. And this is the bulk of the larger population in this Kenya. And unfortunately, some of us who have been, who are in the older generation, we want to stick to the Gema, to the coastal, to the tribal cocoons. But by 2027, things will change. Things will change. If the young people agree to take the voters' card, if the young people agree to vote, the issue of Gema or the issue of the mountain will not be there. It's going to be issue-based. And unfortunately, that's what majority of us who are in leadership now have refused to move on. We are not talking about issues. It is very primitive of us to start talking about individuals. Because once we start saying Eric is my kingpin or so-and-so is my kingpin or we are now going because of our region, the bigger voter basket will not be thinking the way we are thinking. The issue is what current issues are we facing and how do we help the community? We need to move away from our own selfish interpretation of I am trying to gather numbers for the next election. We need to stop looking at the next election by thinking about currently God has given us a responsibility to lead. So what are we doing to help and sort out the issues that Kenyans have so that by the next election then they will say so-and-so is a person who can articulate our issues better or who has been part of solution, giving solutions. I was in Azimio before. And you see, it was very easy for me to stick to opposition and say, I want to sit and say the government is not doing. But because I am nominated, what am I doing in parliament to help? Then if I take a motion in parliament and the motion is rejected, then I would say, that motion I took, I wanted to help on this and it was rejected. Then I can start fighting the government. I also must give solutions. But the problem we have now, we want to still continue with old skills. And I don't know whether it's a saying of you cannot teach an old dog new skills. But the whole thing is now, we cannot continue doing the same things the same way we did. And I hope the people in leadership, including myself, we will wake up and realize that people have moved on. We have a new generation that has come up.
The last election, the election that brought in this new government.
Yes.
It's interesting you should talk about issues because in many, many ways, President William Ruto was actually talking about issues. If a lot of his campaign were actually very, very issue-based. When he brought in issues of charters, he brought in things that we'd never seen before. Essentially, he was saying, I'm actually signing a social contract with you. Something that politicians had avoided, had never done. He was doing it. Now, we're talking Gen Z because they came out and they were in our face and this is Gen Z. But that population that was voting was in existence even when President William Ruto was vying for the presidency.
But did they vote?
You've gotten to the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
Some did, some didn't. We're talking about those who had registered.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes elections are not won by those who vote, but they're won and lost by those who don't vote.
That's true. But you need to know that there was also a deliberate effort, because I also went around Kenya.
Yes.
And I thank God that I joined Azimio, because I also came out from my cocoon of just central Kenya or Mount Kenya, and I went out and I also saw what challenges other parts of Kenya face. And there was also, I don't know whether it was a deliberate effort, that you found, we went to Siaya, you found people who are 30, 40 years who have never gotten an ID, and so they have never voted.
And they're 40-year-olds.
And they're 40-year-old. And they say, we tried to get an ID, we got so frustrated, we gave up. And I remember when we did the campaign, we almost, I think, registered 40,000 new voters. And they were not young people. They were actually people who were over 30. And the whole issue was, then they asked, so are we now getting IDs? Because we were able to process very quickly, would go register. Then within a week, the IDs have been returned, and then they could register as voters. So they asked one question. Are we then getting registered now because you people need our votes, because now our person, you want him to become the president? And once you don't have an ID in Kenya, that means then you can also not have many government services, including M-Pesa.
Yep.
Including a bank account.
Yep.
That's it. So there was a lot of discrimination. And maybe the young people also didn't, by last election, they didn't see the need to vote. They were like, well, I remember when we went for the Mombasa gubernatorial elections, you remember they didn't vote at the time for the election, they voted after.
Yep.
Yes.
And I met the tuk-tuk guys when we were going around town, and I'm asking them, why are you not going to vote? They said no. So I asked them, why are you not going to do this? Because they said, because the person to lead, it is decided in Nairobi.
Yeah.
So why should we go and vote?
I waste my time queuing.
Exactly. And I had to really talk to them, and like, your vote counts. You go out and vote for the person who you need to be your leader. You'll have done your part. I went found the mechanics at Grogon there in Mombasa. I had to work with them, and like, you need to go and vote. It was such a very hard position to tell people to go vote after what happened after the elections, because people felt like there was no fairness. And people felt even the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court had not even done the ruling. And so when I talked to them, I told them, we are hoping that we are going to get all fairness, we are going to get justice at the Supreme Court, so go out and vote. And I also told them, it will also be a way of showing that, yes, this is how your numbers are in Mombasa. If they reflected otherwise in the presidency, then at least the Supreme Court can see the numbers in Mombasa. Well, the turnout of events, I don't want to go to what really happened, and where we are today. But what is currently happening, and I wish we can be able to do, is look at the issues, because now this young generation will now go and get their IDs, and they are going to vote, because they have seen their voice matters. But they have also seen that, yes, you talked about the UDA talking about issues, but basically it was about personalities, if you look at it. The narrative was hustlers versus dynasties.
Yes,
but why did the narrative come? Because there was one person who was being targeted. And the whole target was, we are targeting Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a son of a former president. We are targeting Raila Odinga, who is also a son of
a former vice president.
So these are the dynasties. Yeah, so we are the children of nobody. So we are the hustlers. And so we are coming to form the government of the children of nobodies. But when the reality hit, is this government a hustler's government? That is a bigger question.
Now, our guest is Sabina Chege, Member of Parliament, Maito of Murima. Let's talk about now the mountain itself, Sabina. Why is the mountain splitting? Is there a split?
I'll just say I'll relate this to what happened between Kibaki and Matiba then, where people are they're focusing on the individuals instead of focusing on the matters around the mountain. Because we always say that there's somewhere we come from. And so the people's representative from the mountain are the ones who seem not to be moving on the same or agreeing on many things. And I think the split came in from the ruling party, the current ruling party. We've seen a lot of discussions about the impeachment of the deputy president. and a lot of, back and forth, a lot of accusations that are not verified. And so once these accusations came in, and I think it was important for the president then to call the Mount Kenya people, because I'm in that parliament, I saw people moving around, and there was a lot of excitement from some quarters that they're going to impeach the deputy president for the reasons best known to them, because we never saw what was the accusation. I hear again there's a part 2 of it coming soon. But once that didn't work, and I think the president called the Mount Kenya leaders who are at the forefront and request them first to tone down. And personally, my opinion was, even if that motion was to come to parliament, I was not to support it, because we have more important issues than trying to fight about individuals and making of kingpins and some small gods that we want to rally behind. Because there are many challenges that our people are facing. And you see, the highest people who had the highest expectations with this government were the people of Mount Kenya.
Why?
Because they are the ones who voted and believed that all the solutions they thought Uhuru did not listen to them or did not offer them, they knew this was now the final, or this was the government that was supposed to deliver them.
This one understood them.
Understood them, yeah.
Right.
And they felt like Uhuru took he was at a distance. He never mingled with them. Uhuru never made many trips, and they also accused him that most of the times that he went to the mountain, he only went to attend weddings or funerals. So Uhuru never went to
Nakua Somea.
Yes, he never went to and when he called people at the Sagana, that was the Somea part. Yeah. But he never now went, what we have seen with the current president, that every week he's on the ground, he's on top of a vehicle. It's like he's still campaigning. But for me, and again, that's my opinion, I believe there's time for everything. That there's time to go to the ground and talk to people, and there's time to sit in the office and strategize.
And deliver.
Because what would happen, and this is a temptation that we as all politicians get through, if I go to the ground today, I'll find there's a child who never went to school. I'll find there's a family that might be a body that is detained in the morgue. I'll find many problems. And as the nature of a politician, I would try to impress those people. So sometimes I may overpromise. And I may mean well. But if I go to this a certain village and they say, we really need this road, it is very hard for me to tell them I don't have a budget, which is it's supposed to be, it's okay, I've heard you. We don't have the budget, but we can put in the next financial year. But once you come and tell people, we will do so. Vile mheshimiwa wenyu amesema, ile ameuliza huyu ndi rafiki wangu, nitamwekea milioni 200, 300. And then it doesn't happen. So what will you tell those people when you go there next? And that is why we have seen, I think this young man called Mora has been trying to follow up. Morara has been trying to follow up on the projects that maybe the president launched or relaunched, but really nothing has happened because everything in the government works with a budget. And I think Uhuru was one straightforward person. And he would say, we have a problem with the young people. We have this is what we can be able to do for now. He was straightforward. But I think sometimes also, I always say maybe the leaders that we have is a reflection of the people we also who are in the society.
But Sabina, before you move on away from saying Uhuru also launched very many projects. Some of those ones that are stalled were started in the Uhuru years.
But they were continuing.
Under his administration.
Yes.
They are incomplete.
Yes.
They had stalled. The Mau Mau roads and some of those that have been relaunched again. And Murara was looking at, for example, in the road in Muranga.
There was the Karinga-Kagondo road. You see.
Launched during Uhuru time. Launched again this time.
Yeah.
Nothing going on.
But you see,
let me just say
there was a budget then, and what I would say.
Let me just say something before you say what you're going to say.
Yes.
The understanding of government by us seems to be flawed. Governments are a continuum.
It's true.
So there are projects that someone starts. It may be completed 20 years down the line.
Yes.
That's true.
Okay?
That's true.
So roads, by their very nature, when I look at them, or infrastructure, those things can take
long-term continuous.
They are very, very long-term.
And that is why budgeting comes in.
Now, please continue.
And that's why budgeting comes in, because this amount of money for this financial year, we will cover 10 or 20 kilometers. And then the next 20 will be covered in the next financial year. One of the reasons why we said we want to work with the government and support the government was for the continuity of the many projects, because some of them we understood very well. If I go to my village, Kangari Market, there was a Modidi Market, there were those markets that had been started. Some of them were 60%, 80% complete, and so we needed them to be completed. Yeah. But you see, it will also be ridiculous for you to say we don't have money for Mau Mau roads, and you have started a Mau Mau Lot B in another section of Murang'a. So why don't you
Lot A is not complete?
Yes, why don't you then complete the first one and then continue with the second one? So basically, those are some of the things, and I say we need to work as a team and stop
and deliver.
Start talking about individuals, because what is happening today, tomorrow things might change. So the issue of individuals or who is the leader, who will be the leader, would come in, might be at the 2027 or late 2026. At that time, we had the East, and there was the issue of Mogoka, there was the issue of Mira. Where did that issue go to? We as leaders, are we also looking at the solution? If this cannot work, then what are we offering these people of the East? I think we need to start looking at the issues that are affecting our people. But unfortunately, and this is not only happening in central Kenya or Mount Kenya, almost even in the Rift Valley and other regions, people are not happy. And so what will happen? We might have a very high turnover of leaders come 2027 if we are not careful on how we are going to handle our issues. If we don't now move away from the old way of doing things, of saying I'm from Mount Kenya, or saying I'm from here or from Coast. I think the whole issue is we have, like, for instance, our students who are in the universities, when the issue of school fees comes in, you are not...
It's all of them.
It's not about Mount Kenya or whichever region. It's about, we have this problem, how do we solve it? When our teachers decide that they are not going back to school, our children are being affected. So is it an issue of a region? No. It's the entire nation. So I wish now these leaders, if Mount Kenya leaders come up and they want to say, this is what we want to champion. We are opening parliament on 17th. So then what are we supposed to be pushing as we open parliament? So we have the leader of majority. Instead of him going to radio stations and talking about an individual, he should be mobilizing the people and saying, I'm the leader of majority. We have these bills coming up in parliament. Could you guys arm yourself and start researching and start coming in numbers? Let us be on time in parliament. Let us participate in parliament, because these bills, we will help our people. Unfortunately, when the finance bill came in, majority of the members of parliament never read it, never understood it. And also even the leadership that was there in parliament did not find it important to go out and explain to the people on what was the content. Because initially, the bill was a proposal. Then there was what was done by the committee. And I will tell you, the committee did a fantastic job, even taking the views from the people. But people didn't even take time to read the content of the committee report. And because it was so much rushed, so people are suspicious. What is this thing that's being so much rushed? What are they hiding? You see? So then the suspicion came in. But I believe if the leaders took time to go to the TVs, to go to the radio station and explain this was a proposal, this are our thoughts now as a committee, then what else do you people want we remove from the bill?
Yeah.
That bill would have sailed, because there were also some things that were good. But people became emotional, and people also became arrogant. And it is also important that we leaders know that as we go begging, as we humble ourselves when we're looking for votes, let's continue with the same humility. But when you start chest thumping, when you start, showing opulence, when you start showing like the don't care attitude, now we have all the numbers. So even now the ODM is government opposition. So then we are going to say, what, mutake musitake,
we have the numbers, we are confident.
Exactly. And that's why you saw young people even coming to parliament. So we need also to be very humble. We need humility. And I would say the Kenya Kwanza government came in the issue of church. We believe in God. And I think every conversation they started with Bwana Asifiwe. But the Bwana Asifiwe has faded. They have kept the Bible down now. And now they are looking for solutions from people, not from God. Initially, even remember, when there was no rain, there were prayers at Nyayo Stadium, praying for rain. But when the political issue came, they went to look for political friends, so that then they can come together and now have numbers in parliament. But what happened to your God that you so much believed in, and who gave you all the solution? And I think that is the reality of the matter. That is where we need to start and think about 2027 is not about regions. It will be about these people, the issues that the people are looking at.
So you're
if they talk about taxation, then let's look at what can work, what cannot work. Let us not chest stamp and say this is where we want to go in mass. We must go. It's not a must. Even Rome was not built in one day.
There are people who are still stuck in the old way of thinking.
Yes.
And the old way of playing politics.
Yes.
You give us the example of 1992, where the mountain was split. Kibaki, who carried Embu, Meru, Nyeri, a bit of Laikipia, and some part of Nakuru, and Matiba, who had Muranga, Kiambu, and the other part of Nairobi. And you said, but the unseen hand here was President Moi, splitting it and playing it.
Yes.
Right now, we are seeing the same. We have, Mount Kenya. Now we have Rigathi Gachagua, and we have East. And East is emerging as the Embu Meru, galvanizing, and they're being told, let's galvanize around Professor Kithure Kindiki. Can we say the unseen hand here is President Ruto or anyone?
I'll say your guess is as good as mine.
But there's an unseen hand.
Everything that happens in politics, it's not doesn't happen by accident. It is well crafted. It is well thought up. Sometimes even the headlines we find on the newspapers, they are influenced. So there's nothing that just happens.
Agenda setting.
Yes, it is done. And there are many government agencies also that also set the agenda.
In that time, the idea, then if we were to follow that argument to its logical conclusion, the idea would have been split this giant basket of votes so that then Moi can pita katikati yao and become just a simple majority winner. This time, the idea would still be split this giant basket of votes so that wherever they go, they don't make a big impact?
Yes, it is the same. And I think the more we live, the more things repeat themselves. Because what has happened within Mount Kenya is that people are not happy. So if that big basket is not happy, so the easiest thing will be to split them. So that then you can get a little bit of Nyanza, get a little bit of Western, get a little bit of Coast, then a little bit of Central, so that Central will not be voting as a basket.
Homogeneous ball.
Exactly. And this is, and I've said, it's a repeat of themselves. But for the people who are doing the strategy, then ask yourself, would the issue of the regions still matter come 2027?
It will.
Or will the young people come up, register themselves as voters, and come out and vote issues, vote individuals, and they might also come out to vote out of anger, and just their agenda will just vote out specific individuals. So we need to be very careful on how we push our agendas. We need to be very careful. And that's why I said, one of the person, the former president, who had, maybe I will say, a good kitchen cabinet of professionals was Mwai Kibaki. Remember when Mwai Kibaki came to power, he had an accident. He was not very well. He could also not even articulate his issues very well. And I don't even remember anywhere that Mwai Kibaki at his term, even within the mountain, associated himself with the mountain or even came and stood. And there was a narrative that was said that once he went home to his home in Udaya and women came dancing, he told them, wachani kuregarega, and then mukafanye kazi. He never even entertained women to come and sing for him and everything else. He drove from Nairobi straight to his home in Udaya without stopping anywhere. But work was being done because Pahe was built. He had Professor, I think, Nikwa Njohi. There were a few other people who were kitchen cabinet who made things, and Akina Mudaura, who made things move. Not necessarily President Kibaki, but with his blessings. And I think with our current president, he seemed to be doing everything. He seemed to be the person making decisions. He seemed to be the person going to the ground to launch. He seemed to be the person convincing people. He needs a team.
And he's the kitchen.
He's in the kitchen, he's cooking, he's serving, he's also washing, he's also advising himself. He needs people who can, work for him. Let the cabinet secretaries go and launch those projects. Let the PSs go and do the feasibility
studies. Let them do their job. Yes.
So let him sit and do at the higher level, chair the cabinet and take time off so that he's human.
Mheshimiwa,
He's not a machine. He cannot handle everything. And at one point, he'll break down and he'll make decisions that are not good decisions because he'll work under pressure.
What makes you think those decisions are not being made even now?
Sorry?
What makes you think those bad decisions are not being made even now?
Well, I'm not, I am not saying they are not being made. But the whole issue is, and my advice to the president is get a team that also have the touch on the ground. Because if today I walk in Muranga or I go to the market, people will talk to me and they'll tell me this is what is happening. But there are people who have no feel, who have no contact, but they have this theory and they have studied, and so they will work on things like theoretically. But in reality, some of those things will not work. And I would also say, and this to the president, especially the person who drafted for you the finance bill, that is your enemy. That is an enemy of Kenyan, and that is a person who wanted you out of power. That is actually a person who wanted you to lose.
To fail.
To fail completely. And that is the reality. So let him, he said, I think he said he was to reduce the number of advisors. But as he reduces, let him also look at who are his advisors.
Again, as he reduces, he increases.
That was then.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. But I think he needs to look at the advisors. And we have good brains. And it doesn't matter whether one is Kikuyu, one is Luo, whatever it is. We have good brains. He needs now to work with brains, with people who knows the ground, who can be able to advise him, and people who don't fear him. Because there are also people who just want to say, yes, sir.
Our laws are prohibitive to a degree. It matters whether somebody is a Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Luya. It matters.
It's unfortunate.
It actually matters, yes.
Because when things hit us,
yes,
they don't hit a Kikuyu.
No, it
or a Luya or a Luo.
It hits the whole country.
The whole country, yes.
Let me ask you the question that I had in mind. When I was... See, this narrative of seeing this unseen hand in matters of politics, there's evidence that points to that being the case. The election you speak of, the 1992, if you look at the aggregate votes that Matiba got, Mwai Kibaki, then Jaramogi got, it was 62%.
That's true.
Moi got 36%. And he was president. One could argue it makes sense, but then what does it say of the people who...
62% are not with you.
Yes, but what does it say of the people of the mountain who are willing to be...
Split.
Yes, because they were split, as we say. How is it possible?
Is it the people of the mountain who are willing to be split, or leaders from the mountain who are used to split their people? And that is a repeat of what is happening now.
But again, my question will be asked, because at the end of the day, each of these individuals have people who support them.
That's true.
So you go back to the people. Okay? Because, again, we saw it in 2002. And what you say, which is absolutely true, is that when the mountain vote as a bloc, they are formidable. And clearly, it also says that President Moi was astute enough to have understood this.
That's true.
And so he knew that this cannot continue. Was that the election where we also had Ngilu? Or was it the election that
Ngilu was
the
next
election?
97.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this had been seen to work. So there was no harm in trying it out again. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, I'm not going to blame the electorate here. I'm not going to blame the sovereign. When people have faith in their leaders and the leaders let them down, then the finger has to be pointed to the leaders. Okay? Why am I saying this? What would leadership be if people did not believe in you? Now, yes, I'm saying this because right now, this conversation as we're having it about the mountain, the narrative that we are now seeing, they've been individualized narrative and people's agenda, individual agenda taking the fore. The proof of the pudding will be an election where it is clear people don't support those. Because as of now, it is clear they have supporters. Otherwise, the narrative would not continue.
You see, that's what I've said. People now must move from emotional voting, because people become emotional about their voting. Oh yeah, this person is being anaonewa. So, huyu ni mtu wetu. So, and then that's how you vote. But the question is, huyu mtu wetu, what is he going to do, or which issues is he pushing for us? And the reality of the matter is that the leaders we have is a reflection of the society that we have. So when you come and tell people, pangeni laini, and you give 200 shillings or 300 shillings, and people will come and vote for you because of your 200 shillings, then already you have told them you have nothing else to offer.
Yeah. I bought the vote.
Because I bought the vote, and that my 200 or 300 shilling, I'll also look for it because I need to return. That was an investment. So Kenyans must also now vote. You see, I look forward to a time when we'll have a candidate, because if I'll say today I want to be the governor of Nairobi, the first question will ask, Sabina kona pesa? You know, if I'll say today I would want to be the first president, 2027 I'll vie for presidency in the Republic of Kenya, for instance. The next question will be, what financial muscle does she have? But would the people of Kenya stand and say, we believe in Sabina and we think she can be able to take this country forward? So we have people who are doing billboards for free. We have people who are doing posters, people who are actually saying we are going to be your agents. In Murang'a, we have formed ourselves. In whichever, we are going to form, and you don't want to be paid. We want to offer ourselves so that you go out there and also work for us. So what the reality of the matter, what is currently happening with our leaders, is that we have people who have their aim is not to transform lives. Their aim is not even to work for the Kenyans. They are busy now looking for money for the next election. For the re-election, they are looking for money.
You put it well.
So,
you put it very well.
As you say, the burden also is with the people. Kenyans, what do you want? What kind of leaders are you looking for? And from then can you also start supporting? I like giving also, allow me to use Uhuru because he was my former party leader. I like giving an example of Uhuru. When Uhuru was named, I think first and foremost, somebody had to step out from his position in parliament for Uhuru to come to parliament.
Yeah.
And this was a repeat of what also happened to his father.
His father also?
Kariuki Njiri from Kigumo constituency had to step out of the position for Kigumo. Actually, Kenyatta was an MP for Kigumo.
Yes.
All right.
And yet
so
we know where he comes from.
Somebody stepped out, gave out.
Makto.
Yeah, Makto gave out for Uhuru.
Yes.
For him to come in. Looking at even the how Uhuru looked, apart from him being a child of a former president, and maybe now the family had the financial muscle, you would not have believed that Uhuru would have become the president. But what happened? One, Mzee Moi believed in him. Then we got now the Mzee Mishuki. Mishuki would have said, I'm the senior most. Mishuki was loved by people. He would have said, I'm the senior most. I want to be the next president. But he didn't look at himself. He said, this Kamwana. He was very young and almost unkept. But I said this Kamwana, so he started wearing suits, beginning, he was wearing broken suits. He started shaving, he started looking better.
Grooming, it's called.
Exactly. So by the time that he was now vying for presidency,
He was presidential.
he became presidential. But how many of us are ready to prepare Eric to be presidential? Or do we look at his current status, how he looks, and we say this one? Hawezi, hana pesa, hana nini. And I think we as Kenyans must make deliberate decision that once we would do, an Obama kind of voting, where they said, yes, we can. And the people moved, the masses moved. Have we ever had, apart from the rich people who fundraise for the leaders because they want political deals? The rich people do all these fundraisers that are done. It's for the rich.
They're
and the investors. And they come in, and most of them invest both the way. Yes. The candidates, because they want, once ukiingia, I supported you, so kuna deal. But have we ever had a candidate where people are so passionate about that candidate that they will say, my 5 shillings, my whatever, we want now to bring up this money because...
There's a Mwalimu in Kericho who got that.
Who
and
currently
he's
is
now
governor.
Oh, nice.
But what is of interest?
I hope he's serving his people
Sabina,
well.
They want him out. So you too.
Okay, that's a debate for another day. But I know we have...
seconds, parting shot.
I would say Kenya is a beautiful country. And we don't need to divide Kenya. We need to be one. Whether we come from different regions, of course, everybody comes from a specific area. Let us focus on issues, not individuals.
All right.
And once we focus on issues, we'll move forward as a nation.
So you don't have a kingpin in Mount Kenya? You as Sabina?
Kingpin.
Who's your kingpin?
Define a kingpin.
Wewacha Bwana. Gachagua or Kindiki?
Gachagua is the Deputy President of Republic of Kenya, not of Mount Kenya.
Okay.
Republic of Kenya.
Okay.
and the senior most politician in Mount Kenya.
There are those who would argue, but Aisuru.
Ndio huyo King B. Sabina Chege is the nominated member of parliament, has been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for tuning
And
in.
serving my third term in parliament.
Serving your third term in parliament. Thank you for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow. Have a lovely day.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.